I think we all probably would like to learn a little bit in terms of philosophy toward player development.
In my mind, I kind of start with coaches and what, I want from the coaches. And Marty Schottenheimer, had said this, and when I worked for him, and it's always stuck with me, is that coaches teach and demand. And that's really the essence of what we do. And certainly there's a lot of other things, and you could add to it. But I thought from a simplicity standpoint, that really summed up what the most important things that we're doing. And, obviously communicating and all the skills that come into doing those two things are critical. But who can teach, how well you can teach, getting creative about how you can teach and touch different people and different players and get them to understand, and then how you demand and how you can reach those guys to demand excellence from them and being the best they can be, because that's ultimately what we all want.
I'll jump in here next. When you start talking about player development, so a little bit about me, man. I'm going into my second season as the head coach at Charleston Southern University. Just a lot through my personality. I'm very relational, so we have one rule, and it's 1 Corinthians 11:1, and it is follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. So I put a lot on myself and my coaches to model the behavior we want, because I feel like when you are consistently consistent in who you are, then it earns you the right to be heard. And so for me, man, having a true personal relationship with our guys, we joke around, man. They literally had to come change my door because guys were coming so in and out so often.
Player development is really important in a program like Albany that's jumped into the CAA, because we're not going to recruiting against certain type schools is really difficult for us, especially in the beginning. And I've always believed that there's got to be a philosophy set down by the head coach on how you treat players and how one of the things that I think that's lost in this is patience with young athletes, is that you have to take time. The word development implies time, because it doesn't just happen overnight. And I think that to work with players and not give up on kids, even if they're not getting it right away, is really critical. And I think that this has to be a staff-wide process, because every individual position coach has their own style of coaching, and I never micromanage their styles, but I do demand that they understand how they treat the players. I'm really big about positives. I think it's important. When I coach a kid, when I was a position coach, I always believed in 2 positives for every negative.
Player development is big. We've been doing everything from the ground up here at Benedict College, and I've seen a major difference in the short time that I've been here. And I'm a firm believer, and I'm gonna leave you guys at this. My job is to leave Benedict College better than it was before I got here. When the good Lord say it's time for me to go and he moved me to the next place, I want to leave it better than it was before I received it. And I tell you what, we're making a difference right now in the young men's lives that we're touching every day.
I guess, what advice would you guys give your younger self in this profession?
I spent most of my career, chasing the bigger job. I was one of those guys that I participated in 6 different minority internships with the NFL. I chased a lot of jobs and always had the aspirations to coach on Sundays. I wanted to be an NFL coach. I felt like that I was building the relationships to do so. I just settled down now in my career, and I just say, bloom where you planted. Just be the best you can be at where you're at. And the good Lord place you exactly where he wants you to be.
I think one of the toughest things as coaches is balance, and for us to be able to balance, our personal lives, our families, our health a lot of times. And so those things are things that, and I don't know that I have great answers on those, but I do know that it's something that at times I haven't done a good job with, and I wish that I have done a better job, and and I'm trying to do that as best I can right now. But a lot of us have wives, we have kids. It's a tremendous responsibility, along with all the other things that we have in our jobs, and not to put them on the back shelf, and not to put our health on the back shelf. I think to be where your feet are not only carries over to what you're doing for your job, but what you're doing with your family too, while you're doing the job.
Just in terms of
Sure.
where were we, the game management piece?
Yeah. So right there with Chud, and if I would put it into some specifics, or at least generalities. Maybe we start the year from year to year and we have a feel through veteranship or productivity where our strength lies. Does it lie on offense or defense? Well, let's just assume that there's one way or the other. Well, then for us, that's going to let us know what sort of special teams operation will be. So if we can create a philosophy that ends up being about, okay, possessions, and maybe it's that our defense is stronger and we're going to play field position football. And, we've got to gain possessions for our offense, whether it be through defensive takeaways or whether it end up being through special teams, that we've got to gain possessions for them. Or maybe it ends up being that our offense is the stronger of the two and they're going to be the consistent team that can, and our special teams would reflect that then too. We would have less of a fake punt inventory, fake field goal inventory, onside kick inventory, because we would end up saying, well, we're going to put that burden that way. And we generally have a meeting on Mondays about midday before lunch with the coordinators on a college football schedule. We don't practice on Mondays in our version of it. And I'll meet with the coordinators, and the whole point of that is, hey, let's set our egos aside and everything that we're going to do. How do we win this game? And let's recognize where our strengths and our matchups are and say, here's how we'll win.
Their staff development or anything that you're doing to help build your staff or your staff members.
Hey, I'll say this, Dave. So staff development, you start talking about when you hire you guys. So the first thing I was looking for, and I think I heard Chennis say this, man, is I was looking to hire good men, right? Men with character, men with morals, because you can teach football, but I can't teach character, right? So I wanted to hire people that had character. And when you say like-minded, they didn't have to think like me. They just had to have a similar why, right? I wanted guys that were passionate about young people. And however it came out, it was different ways. But if you have that in common, everything else will work itself out. So from a development standpoint, I don't take things that serious. So I like, empowering people. I don't micromanage. I hire people I can trust so that I don't have to micromanage. If I got to do that, I got the wrong person. Now, I trust them to do their job and to do the best they can. But when we have our, and I just went through it this year, when we had our annual review and I sat down with the guys, one of the sections is, what are your goals? Having an environment where guys didn't feel like they're threatened by wanting to be more, by allowing them to tell me what it is their career goals are, and then putting them in positions where I can develop them. We have trust, and also making sure that it's not my way or the highway. It's a collaboration. Now, I don't have a problem making a decision, but I'm constantly seeking insight from those guys. And if it makes sense to me, the one thing you can't tell me is that's the way we always done it, right? So if that's you got to give me some substance behind it. But I'm constantly soliciting opinions, and when it makes sense, I'm not afraid to change because it's what's in the best interest of our young men.